Hello, this is John Sace, host of the bi-weekly podcast, Half Truths and Whole Lies. And as we know, there's a whole lot of lies out there. They say that money is the crux of all evil, but without money, it's difficult to do anything. And if you have money, you want more, gimme. They will step on the backs of others to get ahead. In today's environment, can our young adults get ahead by working hard and being successful like their parents? Are they being stopped by the highest echelons of society? A group of small individuals known as the oligarchy of the rich. They have immediate access to power and knowledge that none of the average Joes will ever have, giving them a huge advantage. Are these small groups of individuals the puppet masters pulling the strings on us, preventing us from ever reaching our potential? We will look into this with my co-host, Carl Sace. Hello, this is John Sace of Half Truths and Whole Lies, and I have my co-host Carl here. And today we're going to explore the oligarchy of the rich. Is the game really rigged today? Some people would say yes. A lot of people would say maybe not, maybe no. Carl, as always, I'd like to know the state of your health.
Health is excellent.
Let's talk about, again, the oligarchy of the rich. Is the system rigged? So let's start with the idea of kind of a little bit of background. So in the past, our grandparents could buy a house on one income, and then our parents could buy a house on two incomes. But today, the younger people require three incomes, a side hustle, crypto, and an OnlyFans account just to make ends meet. Well, so some people say, is capitalism dead? There's a lot of weird socialism going around today, trying to figure out another way. Do the rich really have some secret knowledge that gives them a leg up? We're going to explore that. Let's just talk about what is the economic conditions today in terms of young adult. What are they dealing with? We're going to talk about housing, education, and healthcare, which are the main things that are driving this economy, the outlook for individuals. So let's start with what do you think the situation is with housing at the moment?
Obviously, demand is up, which then pushes prices up. And also there's actors in it that want a higher profit margin. I think housing is a lot like anything else that's, we talk about private equity getting into it. That drives up the cost because their return on that investment is 20% or more. So what are they going to do? They're going to drive up prices because they want to get a higher return. I think it's basically a result of a demand for higher profit margins.
Well,
Everybody
I agree
wants
with
to
that.
make more money.
So yes, I agree. Investors buying up properties, but there's regulations out the yin yang in all these different cities. They have zoning laws that make it difficult. You can't even rent your place if you feel like it for short term. There's all these issues that make it hard for anybody to even build a house versus the way it used to be. And those are all controlled by what? Who? The government. All these rules, right, are developed on the top side of, the fairly wealthy, the guys that are involved in politics. Think about California and the wildfire. They haven't hardly built anything since then. Regulation. So I think regulation.
The regulations are there to protect the buyer. A lot of times.
Also, no, the regulations are there to protect the sellers. HOAs and all these people complain about anything that they don't like that's in their zone of issues. So I think zoning's getting out of control. You can't do a lot of stuff with your own land. I'm saying it's way different now. That's why the pricing is a lot higher. And you can even throw in Trump's tariffs, but in the cost of lumber, there's a lot of control at the top that's reducing our ability to have houses.
There's plenty of houses, John, if you just want to go farther and farther out. Like here in Texas. You want to live an hour and a half out? Yeah, you can find a house for $200 a square foot. You want to live in, it's going to be $350 to $400 a square foot.
I agree with that, but the supply, if you really look in the total supply, that is not the case overall. Supply is way down. So we do agree that it's high, right? Compared to like our parents' generation. the costs are high. It's hard to get in. Interest rates suck.
Interest rates don't suck, John. They're at where they have been historically. When we were kids, you get, in the 60s and 70s, interest rates were in the 5 to 7% range.
Okay, but
they went down. They spiked, and then they went down. They were driven down politically, so everybody could own a house, and that created multiple financial crises. Maybe they're a little high right now. My first house, I think I was at 6.75%.
Okay, I don't disagree that there was a period for very high interest rates, but also the costs were a lot different. So for a young person on a typical salary, it's pretty freaking hard to get a house. Let's just say that's housing. Education is also another driving factor. The cost of tuition and the housing cost and board and all that around any major institution has gone way up since we were younger and we went to school. And then
I have to agree with education, but I think that's because there's a bunch of fat ass professors just sitting on tenure and making money on research, and then
they don't even teach anything.
I think the education game is a big scam. I mean, when Harvard has billions of dollars in their funds or whatever that fund is, then I'm like, very odd.
It is a scam, and basically a lot of young people take the weirdest damn courses and expect to get a nice job. You can't really take whatever, be an influencer on basket weaving and expect to be make a hell of a lot of money. You never know. I guess the cost of tuition has gone up, the cost of food, housing, and all that's gone crazy. And then they come out, a lot of them don't even get great jobs anymore. The technical trades are a much better trade-off for some of them. So that's a bad situation. People get out and the government made it easy for them to take on debt, right? Yeah, the government made it easy to take on debt. A lot of them end up with a ton of debt.
I mean, they're still doing it. The government thinks everybody needs a house, and I'm like,
everyone needs a house, but everyone needs an education at a higher institution, and that's not the case. I can tell you that. What about the third one? Healthcare and insurance. All insurance has gone crazy, but healthcare has risen dramatically since our parents' days. And maybe our parents didn't go to the doctor as much as people do today. I don't know, but
I think they didn't go to the doctor as much. Our mother went to a chiropractor all her young life in the 1930s and 40s. And not to an MD, according to what I remember, because of her mother distrust of regular doctors.
Is that right? I didn't know that little fact.
Yeah, that was something I remember talking to her about. And then we layered on insurance, John. Insurance cannot reduce the cost of health care. And then there's improvements in technology and things, improvements in pharmaceuticals, a lot of stuff. Everybody's got to make a buck. It just makes sense that healthcare went up.
Carl, since you're what I would call a classic white Christian liberal that needs help all the time because of your knees, are you on Medishare, the Christian sharing?
No, I'm not.
You look like you swear by it, but
I wouldn't swear by,
because you'd have to tell them that, damn it, I don't like religion.
I have an extra high deductible, John, until I get on Medicare.
And you have a high deductible in Medishare too, because they think you're an atheist. That's probably
that's true, but I don't think they actually. I don't think you have to swear to any Christianity or thing like that.
You don't have to tell them if you're a devil worshiper or if you're part of one of these secret societies we're going to be talking about.
I think so. I haven't really investigated it, but I wouldn't
costs have gone up. And it's not just health insurance. Think about auto insurance. The cost of vehicles have gone so way up. Now auto insurance is crazy. Everything. So it seems like,
but they're safer, and so they're more expensive. Less people die, which is due to regulation, John.
That's true.
And let's just get rid of that seatbelt thing and all that other crap.
If you fire off your airbags, no matter what type of accident, you might as well say the car is totaled.
Jesus Christ, John, why don't you just buy a motorcycle? You don't even have to insure it because your liability is going to be so low. What can you damage with a motorcycle other than yourself?
That's true. Also, I've heard
options.
E-bike accidents have gone up extremely high.
I just looked up the thing on housing. It's not that there's a national housing shortage. There's a regional housing shortage in certain hubs, coastal areas where people want to live, where jobs are. People keep moving. We have a very mobile society, so it's hard to find a house.
I'm a little surprised you don't think it's overregulated.
Overregulated? Yeah, you're thinking about HOA stuff and where houses can be built versus from commercial centers to, and then you're talking also about Airbnbs being blocked. So an Airbnb, when you buy a house just to make it into an Airbnb, that doesn't help the community a hell of a lot. It only helps you because it's just like a private equity company buying, like you said, thousands of them.
Short-term rentals aren't the big issue, but I still think just what it takes permit-wise. For example, Austin, it's got all kinds of ridiculous laws, and the cost of permitting here is crazy. I tried to put in a different door, and I needed a permit because it allowed different airflow. I needed a $400 to $500 permit if I was changing my door. That was crazy.
Like adding a door to the outside of the house?
No, taking an existing door and replacing it and having a contractor go in. And if you wanted to meet the regulations, I was like stupefied.
I don't know why that sounds a little excessive. But
well, and also permitting. Like when I owned a 7-Eleven, permitting in Austin was twice as expensive as Cedar Park. It was crazy. That's kind of like we've hit on. These are today's kind of issues. Now, do the rich really know something or do something different than we do? Right now, I think, for example, their behavior is way different. Their families and themselves, they have certain behavior they're training their relatives with, which is, hell, don't buy liabilities, buy assets. Don't buy this and that's going to go down in price or be depleted. Also, avoid taxes at all costs. Do all this manipulation. Use your power to manipulate things. Get into trusts. Get into financial structures that allow you to minimize cost. And then the average Joe, he thinks credit cards, while the typical rich guy will think, what can I borrow off, leverage my money off of something I already own? They are thinking assets. They are thinking all of these ways of getting ahead. And the average person doesn't even think about that.
Well, that may be true because they don't have the money to think about that. It's not like they can hire a financial planner or a lawyer. Yeah, you're right. Even small businessmen don't put enough money aside. They just live day by day, which is obviously proven by the amount of times the small business goes bankrupt. You're talking about how their kids are, most rich people's kids they don't give a crap. They sell their parents' assets and live off. And then they have enough money to give it to this financial planner guy that's charging them a 1% to 2% of their millions, and then they just kind of cruise around and live.
I think Nepo babies is a real thing, but I think there obviously gets exaggerated how most of these people are just wasted people that don't do a damn thing. There's a lot of wealthy relatives or individuals and families that want to get in the business, want to run the thing right, want to do a good job, and they pass on knowledge. Now, there's no reason like the average person shouldn't understand financial stuff. They just never taught it at all. Any of that, quote, we'll call it, it's not really super secret knowledge, but it's knowledge that they've never gained. And schools tend to never do anything about it. They don't teach financial literacy in high school, typically. Those guys,
they have personal finance class. I think it's a voluntary thing in some high schools, which talk about stock market, 401ks and IRAs. They have entrepreneurship classes in some high schools, which talk about starting your own business.
It's not like a common curriculum. Almost everybody should know a little bit. Basic algebra is also required to understand finances. So they need to learn that, as well as the idea of equities. And again, things that have value, which includes stocks and various investments. Now, the good news is kids have a little bit more access to money via their phone. And so I've known high school students are trading options, but that's a crazy road for somebody who doesn't really understand it. A lot of them don't really understand what the hell they're doing. And you got Robinhood and tools like that, Chime and others, allow a 15-year-old to friggin' trade if they want, which is good in one way, but completely idiotic if they don't understand it in another way, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought you had to be 18 to get a brokerage account.
Well, a lot of times use their brother's name.
Well, we talked about gambling too. Yeah, people want to gamble, they gamble. Instead of gambling on what I would consider pretty stupid odds like sports, they're gambling on better odds, but then they do stupid stuff like invest in SpaceX as soon as it gets IPO'd. Kind of reminds me of another one, Rivian, as soon as it got IPO'd. Let's see where SpaceX goes.
Well, yeah, SpaceX has a long-term runway. But, I bet on how many ice cream visits Biden do in a year, and I actually made $2 million.
Yeah, right.
I have that secret knowledge.
You have that secret knowledge.
And then
Dude, I don't think the rich have secret knowledge. And I don't think we were talking about earlier and you were going to bring up these meetings they have that they only invite the rich. And it's just no different than a lot of things. I mean, that are even public. Who goes to the Berkshire Hathaway meetings? You think those are a bunch of poor people? They probably all have a net worth of over a couple $1 million each at the minimum. So
that's a good lead in. Do they have access, and we'll say secret knowledge? Access a lot of times is secret knowledge. It's forewarned knowledge, right? If you have access, you know something way in advance of the average Joe, right? So anyway, there is these secret societies or societies meetings that exist today, and usually millionaires, billionaires, CEOs, CFOs, few politicians, they all go. There's the Bilderberg one, which has happened beginning in 1954. About 150 people show up for that, and none of the events are recorded, no transcripts. Nobody is allowed to talk about what they discussed. Nobody. There's this weird one called the Brookhaven Cove, I believe, where there's this huge owl, and they have this fire ceremony where they all dance around. And this happens in Northern California with a bunch of CFOs and stuff.
What's that one called, John?
It's called the Bohemian Grove. And they have this huge owl, and they do this ceremony, something about cleansing their cares. And then they all hang out together in this glamping kind of situation. There's Davos, where all the rich CFOs get together with the politician. That's all up and above board in terms of public knowledge, but they're obviously having internal meetings together. And then there's it's called the Sun Valley Billionaire Camp. They all get together and I guess make fires and stuff. So, and then finally,
they're all,
what about the Yale's Club? That Skull and Bones thing.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
only 15 people are allowed every year. 15 people. So what do they do with that club? What do they snort coke? What the shit are they doing? They're trying to influence legislation.
Only when the W shows up.
I mean, what are they? They're all trying to influence.
I like the W, but he's got a pass too. Yeah, but they're not secret. They're there. It's not like they're trying to hide their existence. Yeah, they're for rich people because it costs a lot of money to run these clubs.
Well,
but even the Bilderberg is politicians and professors, and it's not just rich people. Yeah, Bohemian Club looks like mostly rich people, but then I looked it up. There's some artists and some media types that get invited. What are they doing? They're talking about what's going on in the world. Where do you think this is going? How do you think the Ukrainian war is going to happen? What's going on with Putin? They want to know. They want to have ideas so that they can prepare for the future.
Yeah, they want to know ideas in advance that no one else will do, or they're going to promote legislation that helps themselves.
That's the real conspiracy, John. Promoting legislation that helps themselves.
Yes, and that is where corruption begins. And so,
well, you want to say corruption. Is it corrupt?
Is it corrupt?
Is it corrupt to donate millions of dollars to a lobbying firm that actually goes and tries to convince politicians through donations to campaign, or maybe their PAC supporting them?
I would say
it's
slightly corrupt. What about Pelosi making more money on NVIDIA than most average investors because she knows shit in advance? What about a guy on a city board?
Pelosi. Let's not talk about Pelosi if you don't want to darn counterhand with the Trumpster and his family.
You're allowed to Trump. You're allowed to Trump my Trump.
Trump Pelosi with
Trump Pelosi.
All these clowns.
But anyway,
another thing is they shouldn't be allowed to invest at all in stock markets.
No, I agree with that. Should they be allowed to put out a Nancy Pelosi meme coin and make a ton of money? She'd probably lose money. I don't really think Trump should be allowed to put out a meme coin and make any money.
I don't think his family should be able to. Oh, it's his family. It has nothing to do with it.
Let's take the typical example.
But it's not illegal, and corrupt is a funny word because corrupt would kind of mean illegal. Is it unethical? Well, it depends. That's another vague term.
So, for example, if you're on the city council and you have a brother and you know this big racetrack is going to be put up outside the city, or you're aware of an airport being built or something, and then you tell your brother, and then he buys land out there on the periphery, makes a hell of a lot of money in 5 years because he knew in advance. Knowing in advance is, I call that, in a sense, secret knowledge. Secret knowledge is knowing something that someone else doesn't know.
Yeah, but other people knew it if you're on the city council. Other council members.
So a small group, getting back, what is an oligarchy? It's a small group that runs things.
Right. And
So it's
we
the
kinda have some
oligarchy of the
oligarchy.
well-to-do.
And that's why the tax base has changed. People act like, oh, the top 5% pays 75 or no, they actually pay a little over 50% of all income taxes, but their actual taxation on their wealth is a lot lower than it's ever been. The tax laws have changed to actually favor the rich, even though they've been sold as these middle-class tax cuts. If you look at it based on income, taxable income, just taxable. Yeah. They pay a big butt, and they haven't, and their margins have gone down a little bit, the upper margin from 40% to 37%. But in general, they are wealthier than they've ever been. And I think that is one of the things that skews the markets, that makes things more expensive for everybody else. It's not a zero-sum game. Well, it kind of is. Somebody's making money, somebody's not getting money. It creates a cost up.
I do think taxes should be relooked at. I also think, though, what's weird is this wealth effect dominating in a few families. So you got, for example, Trump and his family. You've got the Bushes. You've got, Clintons. You've got all these families that have multiple generations. Kennedys. What the hell has the Kennedys done since, John F. Kennedy? Nothing but their name.
RFK, man, he's the hero.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah.
A lot of these families, probably even the Bidens now, have a fairly large wealth effect, and they keep it going. It's like, why do I need politicians from the same family to keep coming up? But they do. That's because these guys control a lot.
I think it does fade over time. When's the last time you saw a Roosevelt? And they may have, crossbred into the Kennedys. I don't know. But and I don't think young Biden is going to do a lot here. I don't think he stands a chance to win the Delaware representative or senator seat.
Well, and Hunter's probably screwed himself with drugs. But there's a guy that
JFK at RFK, he was a heroin addict. Don't count Hunter out.
That's right. He might be using peptides too. Whatever
those
he
Democratic
might be doing.
Socialists take over, John, and take control of everything. Yeah.
I know the socialists are gonna.
Hunter can get a consultancy.
Capitalism really dead? I don't think so. One of the points too is, yes, I think the wealthy do control a lot through influence and access. But in America, because you can rise by doing well, working hard. I think if you work hard and have some good ideas and are not just doing the standard things, overusing your credit card, not saving any money, you can eventually be wealthy, but it takes a lot of effort. And one of the things I see missing today in some of the younger people is the lack of effort. There's a lot of people that just want to get by. I love free stuff. I love free.
God, John.
If only they gave out free beer.
I don't see that. I do see a lot of younger people. They've been sold that labor is not good. I think there's more and more people kind of realizing the trades, crafts, you can make good money in it and have a good life. The question is, like you're saying, is everything's kind of harder to buy your own house. Not necessarily that. Why do you have to own a house?
It's an asset, at least as a measure of wealth.
Yeah, but in general,
stocks are fine.
In general, over time, houses only appreciated around 3 to 5%. There's been spurts and things like that. That's long term, but they'll appreciate more when people start dumping money in it, like private equity. I mean, that's one thing I'll have to agree with Trump on, is get certain monies out of these private houses.
I still think, just from I save a lot of money personally by doing my own stuff, right? I'll mow my own lawn. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'll, learn how to do something so it doesn't cost me, and I'll save money, and I can put that money away. But the average person, they rent a place, they have high-speed internet, they pay someone to mow their lawn, they pay someone to do everything. They have DoorDash delivery. They waste money like it's crazy.
That's their prerogative.
It's their prerogative, but it's also a lack of what I would say seriousness about getting ahead. There's sometimes this view, we can't get ahead. You can't get ahead if you don't do anything to get ahead.
So we're in agreement then. It's not that there's some hidden society, the cabal, that's can keep screwing over these people. It's the fact that they don't take the initiative to do things.
I agree with that. In other words, I agree that's a portion of it. And I think the system's a little unfair in general because of who you know and what you know. Think about getting a job. We didn't get into that. The way to get a job these days, and it didn't used to be this way so much, is you got to know somebody. That's not the way
You got to network. That's what the rich people are doing. They're networking.
Right. So they know that part, and the people are starting to realize that. But there's a lot of stuff that the average Joe has a disadvantage. Now, the more knowledge they have is the way they get out of it. And they work hard. So it's not so rigged that they can't succeed. It is a little rigged. Okay.
But I do think it's, like I said, I want to get back to that. I think the tax laws and how we spend money is somewhat rigged due to people with money influencing policy, not only the tax law, but the defense. What systems are purchased? You think that's always based on a rigorous analysis? No, it's based on a lot on a senator and what's being made in his district. I know for a fact, I have a lot of military friends that are working for companies, but they've worked for companies that either consulted with the Defense Department or made products for the Defense Department. And it's not always fair, John. I know of a West Pointer that got put in prison for 2 years, not my class, for taking bribes from his classmate who was working for a company doing some kind of software stuff for the government. There is corruption, direct corruption there, but there is a lot of where is it being made? Does it, a lot of this crap, does the military really need to have a cell phone for every damn soldier? I mean, just think of the tail cost on that. They're going to break them, drop them. It's not necessary. A drone in the United States costs $1 million, while in Iran it costs $50,000. Stuff like that.
Why does your little mini cabal of West Pointers running a Dollar Tree and overcharging the poor?
It's Dollar General, John. Dollar General. Let's not advertise for Dollar Tree.
Also, why do cell phones handed out to homeless people in San Francisco and drugs, but no one gives free beer to alcoholics? I want to know that.
Exactly. My damn point exactly.
You ever thought about that? Why is there...
I'd line up, we have a giveaway the first Saturday every month at a charity, and I'm looking at the cars lined up. I'm seriously 50 to 100 deep. And I'm like, damn, there's a Mercedes. Man, where's a Lexus?
But still, why? When someone has a drug addiction...
Why doesn't Total Wine have a giveaway every first Saturday of the month? I'd line up for that.
No, and I'm serious. Like, okay, drug addiction, you get free handouts of drugs to help you. If you're an alcoholic.
I haven't heard about that. I knew they were putting you on, methadone or something like that?
Yeah.
Instead of heroin, but...
Well, they were giving out, like, needles and stuff. And stuff.
Well,
and why aren't they giving, like, beer steins and free beer? But anyway, I don't know how...
Well, I don't think alcoholics are dying of infection or the passing of HIV. That's probably why.
Beer is cheaper, though. Yeah, I guess. But heroin, right? That's a conspiracy at the highest levels. I want to know what secret society West Point has.
We don't have a secret society.
The coat of major arms, where you visit some golf course, underground bunker shit, and you guys trade golf balls, something like that. I don't know what you guys have.
We have an underground golf course.
Yeah, below the Pentagon. You guys go there and play. It's big enough.
We bought Yucca Mountain since we can't store nuclear waste there and put a golf course in all those tunnels. Oh, God. We've strayed. So
anyway, we're back.
I think there is a conspiracy in a sense. If you want to sit there and broadly define conspiracy as a bunch of people getting together to influence and to change things or to do things in a certain way. Yes, they're just taking care of themselves. There are some rich people that probably want to change tax laws to help the poor. Those altruistic idiots.
So why don't we switch gears? We got our recorded call-ins. They wanted to make some statements and we can comment on them. So,
okay. I always like the call-ins.
Hello, you damn podcast weirdos. I'm a skinny guy. That is because I do meth all the time and drink light beer. My friends call me Fats. Anyway, I live on food stamps, unemployment, and Medicaid. I don't have squat, but I like my life. Why should I give a shit who is running the damn world? If the ultra rich are, I am good as long as I get my free stuff.
That was pretty quick.
Wow, I think he's on meth because the speed of his speech was scary. I think I caught it all.
I think his deal was, okay, I can hang at home I can get
Well, you
enough
can only get-
unemployment. I can get food
You
stamps.
can't only get unemployment for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, but then they act like they're going for a job, and then all they do is hang out, drink beer. He was drinking light
Well-
beer, I think, and doing meth.
It eventually goes away, though. I'm going to tell you, because your parents are going to die, and you're not
Well,
going to be
he-
able to afford the house. 'cause
He
your
probably
property
won't
tax.
tell anybody that his parents died because he's going to keep collecting their Social Security checks.
Ah, yeah, okay. That would be a good idea.
But anyway, I guess he wants free stuff, and he couldn't care less. I
According
think
to
it's
Trump, according to our boss man, there's millions and millions of people like him collecting their parents' Social Security when they're dead.
okay. Let's go on to the next one.
Hello, my name is Matt, and I'm a professor of economics. I'll not tell you where so those MAGA trolls don't stop my tenure bid, even though no one listens to this podcast anyway. Yes, there is a conspiracy, but not like the cabal or the Illuminati trying to control the poor. The rich have money, they want to keep their money and pass it on to their worthless children, so they dump money into politicians to pass laws that cut their taxes. That's the system, and that's how it's rigged. Why don't they pass campaign finance reform? First Amendment, my ass.
Well, I agree. They don't pass a lot of laws that help the poor that much, in my opinion.
Well, and then he's talking about campaign finance reform, and the big opposition to that is the First Amendment. Yeah, your right to free speech, which includes spending money on political campaigns and stuff.
Yeah, and
free
basically,
speech.
if you shove enough money down and advertise, a person that's worthless can be made to look like he's an angel and was going to be a great guy. You can just spend tons of money, and people do that. We've seen it, billionaires running, millionaires running for office too, right? However, I just don't know what the solution is. I agree that there is too much money involved in any of these
Reinterpret
campaigns.
free speech, John.
Okay, so let's go to the next one.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Roxy, and I work as a pediatric nurse. I have been around a while, and I got to work with Elon Musk's latest wife. His 3 wives have borne him 14 children. That is the number of legitimate children, not counting the bastards he has born out of wedlock. I don't make much money, and I can barely afford a house, and a kid is out of the question. Only the rich freaks like Elon can afford children these days. Just think, in 2 generations, he will have 260 to 300 relatives in his family. He is creating his own little rich cabal to rule the world. He is peddling his influence by populating the earth with mini Elons and Alonettes.
I don't think he's meant to. What he has is Elon's got a compound. I forgot where it is. In Texas? Yeah. A big one. And what he's doing is he's getting ready for the Mars trip. He needs a lot of people for the Mars trip.
Oh, he's going to populate that
And
world.
if you've looked at, what was the name of that movie where the people that going into space had to have certain physical qualities and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I
don't
forgot
remember.
it. But anyway, there's a science fiction movie. And that's what he's doing. He's trying to get them all genetically the same. So when he populates Mars, he can start a new civilization.
That's
That's what he's doing. So
Sounds
don't
like
get mad at Elon. You know,
he sounds like an advertisement for SpaceX to me. So
Elon could give a crap about SpaceX. You know, he's a trillionaire today. He's a billionaire tomorrow, whatever.
I do think that the little point about raising children has gotten, again, if you go back generations, raising children was not that costly. Now it's like ridiculously costly due to lawsuits and rules and regulations. Getting back into that.
No, it's not that bad. Look, John, you just, okay. I met a lady in Salt Lake City the other day, one of 13. Her dad's 72, her mom's like 68. Yeah, they're both still working, kind of.
Yeah. Can you retire is the big question these days.
So,
but you don't
a lot
believe
of
that
people don't
healthcare-
even like retirement. They just
You
get
don't
bored.
think
so
child care has gotten expensive? I think it's been ridiculously expensive. So
that's why you got to have a lot of kids, because the older ones take care of the younger ones.
So that's what that says, is that the rich will keep having more and more kids, and their small cabal or oligarchy will turn into a huge number of people that are running the world.
I think really Elon's an abnormality. Most wealthy people or relatively wealthy people only have 1 or 2 kids.
Oh, but that's only legitimate kids. They tend to have hundreds out of wedlock. The bastards are running the world. Okay.
Next.
You guys are so stupid. No one can afford a house. Gas is through the roof. The rich keep getting richer, and the gap keeps getting bigger. When the Democratic Socialists take over in the next 2 elections, since Trump keeps stepping on his tie, which, by the way, is way too long and totally unfashionable, then we will finally have a balanced budget, national health care, and equality. Maybe even start a gulag out on the Aleutian Islands for him and his billionaire buddies. Bye-bye, bozos.
Well, a gulag.
I like that idea of a gulag. And probably Trump has thought of that after talking to Putin so many times.
I was thinking it's more like Pleasure Island that they'll have, not a gulag.
Oh, it'll have a golf course and a pickleball court.
Remember the idea of they're all celebrities are building thousands and thousands of luxury bunkers and buying their own islands. Maybe they'll buy the Aleutians because it was irradiated and it's really cheap.
That'll be their summer island.
Who knows? I
think that's a good idea. I keep looking for some place to get out of Texas in the summer. So the Aleutians is the answer.
Yeah. Now, the idea that the socialistic New Democrats, DSA, are going to fix our capitalistic society.
I kind of want to point out the DSA is not an official part of the Democratic Party. They are their own little group. 120,000, 80 to 120,000 is what the estimate is.
Somebody was questioning the head of that, or one of the heads. They said they wanted to abolish the Senate. They wanted to abolish.
Well, they're socialists, John.
Everything.
But they're not social democrats like the Norwegians or the Swedes, the Danish. They're socialists.
Well, I agree.
They want a socialist society. And
right. And they're not. And a lot of the younger people that are tending to move towards, we'll say, socialism really don't understand typically what it means. I would say that's probably true. They think it is like.
Well, I think there's a large chunk of people that are actually dues paying members to the DSA that are thinking they're like I said, the Swedes, the Norwegians, the Finns.
But that's not how that's not their platform.
That's not their platform. Their platform is more traditional socialism, which is government owns big corps, stuff like that.
Well, I would say that the skinny guy that called in before, the meth guy, he likes DSA. He wants all the free stuff, beer, everything. Anyway, he wants to hang out at his mom's house. Okay.
The skinny guy, yeah. I'm kind of wondering how he's affording everything, but whatever.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Lola from Alabama. My daddy says that the problem with getting ahead is that all the pencil-necked geeks in those Ivy League colleges keep making regulations and rules only full-time lawyers can even understand. So it's too hard for us hard-working types to make a buck. Is that true? So this morning, my daddy told me, listen to these morons. I doubt if they can help. So far, he was right.
We haven't even given her any advice yet, and she's already calling us morons? It's pretty sad.
Lola.
I would
like
say
that name, though. Kind of makes me tingle.
I think that's why she needs a lawyer. Somebody needs a lawyer.
But
anyway,
that's not right.
I think secret societies, I think Yale and some of these guys, I do think they're passing laws that help themselves a lot. They obviously pass some laws that help people.
I have to sit there and go, I really think the reason the United States is doing well economically compared to the rest of the world is we are actually less regulated than most of the world. Probably less regulated than the Chinese. Not the Russians. Russians are mafia state.
Yeah, they're run by.
That's all how you want to interpret the word regulation. Europe and other countries that are more advanced.
I think we actually have more of what I'll say a creative entrepreneurial spirit. For some reason, the populace in the U.S. seem to be much more willing to take chances. Europe seems like they still have vestiges of societal levels, in my opinion, Oh, this guy went to this school, and the only people who can really get ahead are certain people. I think there's a lot of that. They just don't take chances. They're not willing to put themselves on the line.
Well, they're more entrenched in their culture. We fight diversity, equity, inclusion, but one of the reasons we're good is because of our diversity. And if you work hard, that's equity.
Yeah.
It's all how you want to define DEI. If you want to force it down somebody's throat, that's one thing. But if you want to, say, oh, okay, we're diverse, we're good.
My opinion of that whole thing is it's really equality versus equal outcome. So, for example, I'm all for diversity of thought and people doing whatever they want. And this guy, I have no prejudice.
Well, to a limit.
Yeah. I mean, freedom there's still costs and accountability with freedom. I really think this idea we should have equal results is too much. That's crazy. That's, that getting back to, if you work hard and you're better than somebody and willing to fail and try, you'll get ahead. If you don't believe in that, you believe everybody should have the same result, it's going to be more like Europe. Less risk taking, less risks. Next one.
Howdy, my name is Sean. I am a software engineer just starting out, wondering how I am going to make ends meet with inflation sky high. I recently asked an AI model named Estropic whether I would make it in the world with my skills. It stated, "No friggin' way, you idiot. You should be a welder." It also stated that the rich have access to a secret AI named Smartass that provides 90% effective predictions that allow them to make huge bets on stocks and sports. They always have access to stuff we can never have. Need to marry a sugar daddy.
Well,
what was her name again?
Sean.
Shonda. Shonda?
Just Sean. Sean goes both ways. It's a name for a girl as well as there's a famous actress named Sean. So forget.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was Shania or something.
You'll have to look up Sean. You know the woman in Blade Runner?
Blade Runner.
The very pretty lady that was in that? Her name is Sean. Okay. Well, there's a big worry that AI is going to not be a job helper, as we've discussed. It'll be a job destroyer. I think it'll allow people to be, again, getting back to the entrepreneurial spirit of being self-reliant, being creative. Those people will be able to start small companies more rapidly, more quickly, with better results. There's a big discussion about which way is this all going to go. I think it's going to create more jobs. Certain jobs are going to be smacked. It will allow growth in other areas. Now, is there a smart ass AI that can predict things 90%? I guess the wealthy people could probably afford AI agents that are pretty good at analyzing huge sums of data to help them manage stocks, manage equity investments. I think they have some advantage just by having that much money to be able to use the latest AI and cutting edge tools. Carl, you got any point on this one?
I don't think there's a big hidden conspiracy. I think rich influence politics a lot more than we want to because of communication money, lobbying, stuff like that. I'm not too worried about AI, except recently they actually had one that went out into the internet.
Oh, yeah, went rogue.
Problems, went a little rogue. So I'm concerned about that. I think you're right. Over the centuries, I mean, there was the Luddites in England when they got certain technology because job loss there. There was worries about all new technology is going to destroy one industry and open up another. I'm not too worried about it losing job. My opinion is we just got to try to influence our politicians through one way or the other so that tax law and stuff like that helps us and not just the rich.
Yeah, and I think we got to work on making our society a little bit better for our younger generation. I think we have one more. This is the last one.
Hello, you old farts. I'm a Canadian, and I hate the USA, hate it. But I love men in the US that have power, you know, the ruling class money bags. Well, the worst abuse of money that I ever saw was Fauci and Biden colluding during the COVID pandemic. Well, before Pfizer had the vaccine, they bought it stock up the yin-yang. The little people like me bought it after the vaccine came out. They made beaucoup bucks. Why else do you think Biden pardoned Fauci? And why Biden can afford all that damn ice cream,
Well, all I can say is I hope you didn't hold on to your Pfizer stock.
He's saying that Fauci and Biden colluded.
Fauci's diaries were released by Rand Paul or something like that. I'm like, how'd they get his diaries anyway?
Is Fauci and Biden corrupt? He's just as corrupt as the other people in our governments. Biden, I think, is more corrupt because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Therefore, his people run him. So Fauci, he knew what he was doing. He just was wanting the limelight. Don't know why he actually peddled certain positions. I'm an ex-teacher. I do know that those lockdowns that they all pushed really harmed learning for 2 years. It was pretty bad.
It's so much easier to be a Monday morning quarterback and go, oh, this did that and that. But when you have people dying at a higher rate than you had in the past and you have history, think about the Spanish flu in the 19-teens, people dying left and right because they did nothing. They didn't, It's kind of hard to sit there and just sit on your ass and do nothing. You want to do something to protect people. In retrospect, it hurt education, yes. Did it save some people's lives? Yes. Was it overboard? Maybe, maybe not. Not as bad as China. We weren't locking people in the damn high rises. Now we know more. At least it created a great way to make vaccines, viral vaccines with messenger RNA.
Oh, yeah, that was the most amazing part was the speed at which the vaccines came out.
We don't do it that way all the time because we're not in a hurry.
Right. You have to break some rules if people are in danger. I agree with that. We're going to wrap up.
The whole idea that the rich have some kind of advantage, here's my take. That's not true. They move in circles that give them information. They have advisors that try to predict things. They take risks because they have extra money to take risks. And when those risks pay off, it basically covers their losses and then some. And that's how it goes. So my take is, you got to get innovative. You got to work hard. You got to save money. Just like John was saying, you can't just be spending it on crap that's not going to be to your advantage. And then you can end up retiring early like Carl says here at 60. That's my take, whether you like it or not.
Okay. My take is that there's not a true cabal or small group that's really running society, but the rich have, I would say, significant advantages that allow them to spend money on luxuries and stuff. And it's too often that our young people try to copy that. You don't need to have a Starbucks every morning. You don't need to have food delivered when you're not making that much money. And the rich, they influence politics to drive certain positions which aid them. That's a fact. And they think differently, and they train their kids to think differently about money. So my view is we need to get better financial planning or ideas that are with our youth and get them to think about working hard again and meritocracy and getting ahead, and things will be a lot more even keeled. Right now, there's too big of a disparity between the rich and the poor, and acting like a rich person when you don't have money just blows money. So that's my take, whether you like it or not. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast about money, power, and access. I know I did, along with my co-host, Carl. Please remember to subscribe to Spotify and to YouTube. And remember, we're constantly looking for the truths behind all of the lies.